Mic is hot.
Okay, everybody good?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good evening. I'd like to call this November 16th, 2020 Sylvania Board of Education meeting to order. Ms. Shanks, can you call the roll?
Julie Hoffman.
Here.
Shannon Safersky. Here. Bruce Honslitsky.
Here.
Greg Feller.
Here.
Kimberly Conlon. Here.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I did forget to mention, if you are interested in participating in public participation, please send an email to district@sylvaniaschools.org, and then we will call you. And we have nothing right now. We have 2 times that we do public participation. So then the first item, it is my honor to motion that we appoint Kimberly Conklin as the newest member of the Board of Education after extensive interviews of many hours that we did last week. We have asked Kim to join us. Kim is a lawyer of almost 20 years, parent in the district, and we're excited to have you join us. So I move that we approve Kimberly Conklin as the newest Board of Education member.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Bruce Honslitsky.
Yes.
Shannon Safersky. Yes. Greg Feller.
Yes.
And now you need to give her the oath, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This way everybody can see. Okay, just need to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the Board of Education of Sylvania Schools, Lucas County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? If so, please answer, I will.
I will.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sorry, South, you called. I thought I was giving the COVID call.
Okay, then we are with you, Dr. Motley.
Good afternoon, everyone. Item 4.1, it is my pleasure to recognize our students from Northview High School who have really demonstrated national honors in academics. More specifically, you will look at the agenda. We have several students who scored a 26 or higher on our ACT that took place in February. Also, students who also took the test in September. We are just absolutely thrilled to highlight these students and their achievement. We also have notable SAT scores as well, all from Northview High School. So congratulations to those students and those families for a job well done. I am thrilled to share this with our community. Congratulations to those kiddos, and I recommend your approval of commendation.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Greg Feller.
Yes.
Shannon Safersky.
Yes.
Bruce Honslitsky.
Yes.
Kimberly Conlon.
Yes.
Great job to those students. And we are with you, Ms. Shanks.
Today I do have the 5-year forecast on the agenda for approval, so I'm going to go through and give you a quick presentation. I know I've provided to you. Yeah. I provided the assumptions and the document in your board packet, but just wanted to highlight. Some of the pieces. So the first thing, this is just an overview of our forecasted general fund balance. Got the breakdown of the revenues and the expenses, and how our cash balance will be declining over the next few years. We started with a cash balance of $25 million. Our estimated revenues are around $93 million. Our expenses are $94 million, and our cash balance estimate as of 6/30/21 is $24 million. One of our biggest sources is property tax. And that includes property tax, tangible personal property tax, which is our business, our class 2 revenue, the allocation of that revenue source. If you take a look at the charts up and down, we know this in 2019 we took a dip, and we've known that from previous presentations that there was a change in the tax law. So we received more income at the end of 2018 to get ahead of the change in the tax law, a decrease in 2019, and went back up in 2020. Now in 2021, I'm assuming we have a commercial property that will move from taxable to exempt. I've predicted this in 18, 19, and 20. We know that it will be exempt. We're just waiting for them to file for the exemption and for that to be approved. So as of right now, I'm expecting that we'll have to issue a refund of about $2 million to the company, and then there will be a tax loss of about $260,000 this year. So that's about over $2.3 million. So the amount of the refund and the loss of taxes in fiscal year 21 is about 9 days cash, just to this one company. I put this in about the 2019 commercial new construction was also on last year's forecast. We have $15 million of new construction come on the tax abstract for 2020, which will offset some of that loss. So our state funding. In fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 2020, we had $1.7 million reduction in the last month of the year because of COVID and the economic shutdown into the state of Ohio. In July of 2020, or fiscal year 2021, we had another $1.7 million reduced from our state funding, which is a total of $3.4 million. Since the reopening in June, the economic data of the state of Ohio has shown strength. And I do have some notes because it's pretty interesting. And I have kept you up to date with the financial reports, the monthly financial reports from the state of Ohio. Just the summary provides a lot of good data and can keep you up to date and gauging the economy. So through October 2020, general fund revenue for non-auto sales and use tax collections were up 10.1% above estimate. That's the budgeted estimate. So after they took into account the budget after COVID, revenues are still beating estimates by 10.1%. October revenues continue to perform at a greater level that would normally be expected from an economy which is still in the recovery process. So if we go back to the October data for the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, it is the 6th straight month that we've gained jobs. These are non-farm payroll jobs, also a good economic indicator that we're in the middle of a rebound. Forecasters have predicted the economy will continue to go through the end of the calendar year 2020, and most economists did not expect this recovery to happen so quickly. They expected the Ohio's economy to be back in full recovery at the end of the 4th quarter in 2021. Now, with all that being said, another shutdown could lead to additional funding restrictions, because we are funded based on the tax collections of the state, and if we start to lose tax revenue, we could very easily lose more state funding. But something that is new that I want to talk about in state funding, and it's new and it's positive, and it's something that we haven't seen for 23 years, is a House Bill 305, which is also called the Fair School Funding Act, and it's really gaining traction in the state. And I had a treasurer reach out for the Northwest Ohio region. He said, I haven't felt so good about a funding model in my entire career, and he's been in the business for over 15 years. So this House bill was supported by Ohio Speaker of the House, Bob Cupp, and John Patterson. Those two also tried to get a funding model in place that was more equitable years ago, and it didn't get off the ground. And it was developed by a work group consisting of superintendents and treasurers. So the funding plan focuses on two objectives: what it costs to educate a child and what the school needs to operate. So it deals with both pieces that it makes it more fair and it's more, it gets away from the property tax and the wealth factor, although that still plays a part. But more about the House bill and the components. We have not had a funding model since the 18-19 school year. So this will be the first funding model, and it would be implemented in fiscal year 2022. But the main components of the funding model would take into consideration the base cost to educate a typical student. It would also factor in state and local share, but the dependence would be less than it has been in previous years. And then this funding model would provide additional targeted assistance for things like economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, transportation, English language learners, and I think that's it. So I wanted to point that out because it's really gaining traction, and there's been a lot of talk, despite the environment that we're in COVID, and to bring about a fair funding model is quite an accomplishment in this environment.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Any idea what kind of support that's getting?
It's gaining a lot of support.
It really is?
It really is. Today we had to sign a petition that will go to the state legislators. Yeah, it's surprising in this environment, but
Yeah, because that's amazing.
it's really gaining a lot of support. So to go on to like our other revenue sources, which includes interest income and tuition and class fees, and this is the last line item of the forecast of the revenues. What we're seeing is, 2020 provided data that was an anomaly. And we can't base, the trends are off. But what we know is, at the time COVID hit, interest rates bottomed out. So even when we had a cash balance, we could expect to receive less in interest because the interest rates dropped to record lows. So we know that we're going to receive less interest earnings. Our tuition is tapering off, and student fees, while we rebound from the year before, we're expected to be shortchanged in student fees because of the lack of enrollment at this point. So going on to expenditures, salaries and benefits are our largest expenses, and they make up about 83% of the entire budget. Typically, what you want to maintain is an 80% percentage, no more than 80%. But we're at 83% and have been for years and years. And it provides a breakdown of how our salaries, or the breakdown of the salaries across the district as in teachers, administrators, our classified staff, and there's one more. Regular, administrative, certified, and all other salaries, which includes like your sub-pay and your supplemental payments. The benefits, we pay, this year it is expected that we'll pay almost $11 million in our health insurance benefits, $9,400 in retirement, and all other benefits of about $2 million. Our purchase services are the things like our technical service agreements with Milwaukee for our connectivity, utilities, maintenance, tuition, travel and expenses, communication, those types of expenses. What we're seeing is the trend. We had, obviously, 2020, we were able to reduce some of our expenses because of the shutdown. So there's going to be an adjustment for this fiscal year. But we do expect in this fiscal year we're going to be paying even more in our repairs and services. Some of those expenses are because of COVID and how we've had to prepare on the service side to get our buildings COVID ready. Tuition, we've had a lot of move from EdChoice. Those tuition payments we're expecting to gradually increase because of that's what the trend is suggesting. And our utilities, we were able to save some money with our utilities last spring because of COVID. We're expecting that to there's a slight increase baked in, and then also a rebound from being in full swing or back to school. The materials, the supplies and materials, again, we had to make some adjustments in fiscal year 2021 due to the preparing our buildings for COVID, and that would include plexiglass and PPE and things the materials that would keep our students safe and our staff and our students safe. We also had some adjustments in some of our supplies and materials, our instructional materials, we weren't able to purchase those in the spring, so that was a carryover budget to this year. Yeah, so essentially, the light green is fairly large because of the preparation for COVID. Mostly everything else is in line with where you would expect it. So, at the end of, or over the next 4 years, we can expect, we're gonna be outpacing our expenses in this year by about $1.1 million. We have about that much or more in the PPE and the acrylic to make our buildings COVID ready. And then next year is anticipated that our revenues will outpace expenditures. And then from 2023 on, we'll be in deficit spending. It doesn't mean we're gonna be out of cash. It means that we're just deficit spending. We need to make adjustments in order to stay off the ballot, preserve our cash balance and stay off the ballot. So the simplified income and expense statement, it goes through and starts with the beginning cash balance in every year, adds the revenues, takes out the expenditures, and then it shows what our shortfall is, our shortfall or our surplus is in every year. So at the end of 25 is anticipated, this is without the encumbrances at the end of the year, our cash balance would be about $8.5 million at the end of 2025. Which should be roughly 30 days. 30 days cash. And that's the end.
Do you want to take questions now, or do you
Sure.
want to? Okay, does anybody have any questions for Lisa? By the way, I thought that was an excellent presentation, very clear. Very clear, really easy to follow. Wasn't always the case when I started seeing those many years ago. I have no idea what's happening. That was real clear. Does
Well,
anyone
I-
have any questions for Lisa?
Yeah, quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, thanks for that presentation. You said, at the end of 25, our cash balance is about 8 million, 8.5?
8.5.
And you said that's 30 days cash?
That should be about roughly 30 days cash.
And what's like the typical
60 to 90.
60, 90, okay.
As a rule of thumb, you want to have at least 60 days, but I would prefer 90 days.
Right,
I
me
prefer
too.
365 days.
Yeah, right. Right, okay, thank you.
That'd be wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Lisa, do you see any scenario where that could change?
Oh, sure. There's a lot of, one of the examples, if we shut down again, that could impact our funding. An economic slowdown, which we know, but there are corrections. But having that cash balance is so important because that allows us to make the necessary adjustments. Typically, in a slowdown, we're also have less enrollment, so we could make adjustments that way. I've anticipated, a very consistent increase in, health insurance. We know that if even that, a few percentage points can make a huge difference over the course of 5 years. So it's really about, taking what we know and then making those adjustments ahead of before we need to, in order to be consistently right sizing to stay off the ballot. But again, it's not staying off the ballot for the sake of staying off the ballot. It's a balance of providing all of those educational initiatives and programs that we're used to and making the adjustments. So it's a good balance.
Thanks.
Quick question, is there any sense, if that House bill does pass, any sense how that would affect our funding?
Yeah, so the initial estimates, and again, this is initial, and things can change, and
Sure.
it's not to the legislator,
Sure.
and it has to be funded.
Right.
So if there's not enough revenue to fund it at the beginning of 2021, they'll have to do what they've always done and say, this is great, this is where we want to fund it, this is the level. However, we can't afford it, so we're going to fund it at 85%. But the initial estimates that I have seen would add $2.9 million to our state funding. But I think it's one of the things, they have, the state mandates so many pieces of our educational programs. What they don't do is help us fund those programs, or they put restrictions on how we educate, so we can't use the small amount of money that we do get to educate or, implement programs how we see fit and based on the needs of our students. So some of the components of target assistance, like with the English language learners and the disabilities and the economically disadvantaged, it'll provide us with more flexibility to fund more programs the way we see fit and customize it to our needs.
So will it be across the board funding, or, will they take into account, like, the wealth of our community?
They will take into an account the wealth of the state and local share. That will continue, but it'll be less of a factor. Right now, it's all wealth-based, or it's, the largest percentage is wealth-based. It's so heavily wealth-based, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That will still be a factor, but it will be less of a factor.
Okay.
And it'll fix some of those unfunded mandates?
It will.
And what about the charter schools, the money where, how that money goes out at a higher rate than what the funding we get?
I haven't seen anything about that, although I did find something this today that there's gonna be something separate for charter schools. But I haven't seen anything in this bill that speaks to the charter school.
But if they have something separate, then hopefully they're addressing it over here, and
Well, I mean, I've seen something separate about the charter schools, but I don't know how that fits in with the new funding model.
well, it all sounds very promising.
I think it is too. And like I said, the amount of traction that it's received in this climate is remarkable.
Is there anything we can do? Do you need us to write our legislators?
Yeah,
Okay.
always.
Okay, happy to do that.
Lisa, if I can ask a question as well, in regards to, I know there was a new census that took place this year, and then we sometimes get an adjustment in federal funds once the census has been calculated. When will we find out, will that be next summer when we find out about what that funding at a federal level will look like?
Yes.
And that we could also use that alternative funding at that, if it's more or less, to make adjustments?
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Make adjustments to those title programs, correct.
Okay.
Okay, and do you wanna do the approval on that now, or do you still want to go in
I'll go
order?
right through.
Okay.
I did pull out the regular, minutes of October 26th. We're gonna vote on that separately. So I'm asking the board to approve on a consent agenda basis items 5.1 to 5.4. And 5.1 is the minutes of the work session held on October 13th. Vicki Donovan Lyle was absent. And then the treasurer's report for the month ending October 31st, 2020. The availability of funds for then and now invoices in excess of $3,000. And the 5-year forecast for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 21 to June 30th, 2025.
I'll move for approval on a consent agenda basis, items 5.1 to 5.4.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
So we are not voting on the minutes from 10:26.
We're gonna vote on that as next.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
So, since we're including the minutes, how will Kimberly vote? Like, cause she can vote on this.
She's gonna abstain.
From the
Yeah, we
minutes.
might have wanted to do those
The
separately,
minutes are
right?
separate.
Yes,
Oh,
Do we wanna amend that?
The other minutes are there.
I'm gonna ask the approval for 5.2 to 5.4, and I'm gonna vote on the minutes separately. And what I'll do right now is I'm gonna move 5.1 down below 5.5.
So
Okay, so
Can
do
I-
you need any motion, or do you just want him to amend his
should I
motion?
just
Yes.
amend my motion?
Yes.
So are the minutes gonna stay 5.1?
Nope, they're gonna stay it's gonna move to 5.5 and 5.6, and we're gonna vote on them separately. So, I'm asking for a motion to amend the
5.1.
consent agenda from 5.1 to 5.5. 5.3.
Okay, so I will,
I know.
I will amend my motion to approve items 5.1 to 5.3 as a consent agenda basis.
Okay, second.
Okay, any comments or questions?
Thanks for that, Catch.
Ms. Shanks?
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Shannon Sapersky,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Bruce Lenswitsky,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Are we voting on the previous minutes at this point?
No, just the
Okay.
treasurer's appointments.
Okay, the next item, 5.5, are the minutes of the special meeting held on, or I'm sorry, the work session held on October 13th, 2020. Vicki Donovan Lab was absent.
I'll move approval.
Second. Sorry.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Shannon Sapersky,
Yes.
Bruce Lenswitsky,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Abstain.
The next item, 5.6, minutes of the regular meeting held on October 26th, 2020. Bruce Lenswitsky and Vicki Donovan Lab were absent.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Shannon Sapersky,
Yes.
Bruce Lenswitsky,
Abstain.
Kimberly Conklin.
Abstain.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Shanks, and I think we're with you, Dr. Motley.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. Item 6.1, we are asking the board to approve an amendment for adjusting the grading policy for this school year at both Northview and Southview High School, more specifically in their handbooks, and is revising the policy to really provide 2 levels of a grade adjustment, and we're recommending this to move forward.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
Yeah, can you elaborate?
You sure
Yeah.
can.
So maybe
Tim,
touch base?
absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll explain it the best I can, but generally we have semester exams, 40% first quarter grades, 40% second quarter grades, 20% semester grade, or semester exams. Because of the later start of the school year and conversations with department heads at the high school and specifically teachers, they lost that time with kids, so they want to do away with the semester exams. That's technically a week of exams, but you take another week preparing for those exams, it's almost 2 weeks of instruction they were losing here up to winter break. So with those semester exams, they had the 50% threshold, where a student, if they had a percentage grade for a quarter under 50%, say they had a 30, it would be rounded to 50%. The problem with that, taking the semester exam off, if you automatically gave them that 50%, if a kid had a 70% first quarter, 50% of their grade is first quarter, 50% of the grade is going to be second quarter. They could easily say, I had 70% first quarter, I'm not doing anything second quarter, I know we don't have semester exams, I'll take a 2%, that's going to get rounded to a 50%, I'm guaranteed a D for the semester. So because we don't have the semester exams now, we want to make that a 35% threshold where students would have to work to get at least above a 35% to get to that 50% threshold. If they score below a 35%, they only go to a 35% threshold. Long story short, it holds them accountable without the semester exams to put forth an effort in the second quarter. Hopefully
Thanks,
that
that
makes
helps.
sense.
Yeah, that
Hopefully
makes
makes
perfect sense.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes.
We needed that detail.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Bruce Lenswitsky,
Yes.
Shannon Sapersky,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Item 6.2 is a memorandum of understanding for a science teacher change in assignment. I'm pleased to say that we collaboratively worked with the SEA in regards to moving and switching a solid teacher into a brick and mortar position, while the brick and mortar teacher went into a solid position. So we were really able to accommodate the needs of both families as it relates to some things related to COVID. So I do recommend the approval of this MOU.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Bruce Lenswitsky,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Shannon Sapersky,
Yes.
Item 6.3, we seek your approval for the National Nutritional Standards Compliance. Sebago Schools has adopted and is enforcing a nutrition standards policy. This is something we need to have annually approved to make sure that we are in compliance with the national nutrition standards. This compliance piece is monitored and maintained by the Ohio Department of Education, so it is something that is quite important, as it's also monitored through the consolidation or Consolidated Schools Management System, which is fancy talk for the CCIP. We're just putting in the data saying, as a district, we are following the national standards for child nutrition services in our district.
I move approval.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Shannon Sapersky,
Yes.
Bruce Lonswitsky,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
The next several items are based on a consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.5. 7.1 notes supplemental positions for this school year, which includes coaching positions. 7.2 is license unpaid leave, absence. Item 7.3 is for a licensed career tech student organization advisors, which we're pleased to have in place to support our students in career ed as they work through their certifications so they can be gainfully employed. Also, we have item 7.4, which approves new substitute teachers. Abby has worked diligently with her team in HR to secure additional substitutes. I would like to bring attention to each month or each board meeting, we've added more names, so we are continuing to beat the bushes to add subs to our district. And item 7.5, we do have a few resignations of substitute teachers. So for item 7.6, I do recommend on a consent agenda basis, items 7.1 through 7.5.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis of items 7.1 through 7.5.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? So we had a net gain of 2 substitute teachers.
We'll take it.
That's great.
We'll take it.
I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer this, maybe Tim, I don't know. So I know substitute teachers are hard to come by right now, and I know for like nurses, like if they were in nursing school in their last year, they were like given provisionally allowing them to go work in hospitals. Is it possible for something to happen with like education students who are in their final year, they're already observing in classrooms, they're writing lesson plans? Has there been any talk of that we could tap into those students? Oh, maybe you could answer this. Is that a no?
So the issue is a lot of programs have that semester student teaching. They're already in schools, basically full-time, Monday through Friday student teaching. So it's hard to get them to then also at the same time be substitutes, because they're actually supposed to be overseen by a licensed teacher. So they can't get a class by themselves as students. So it's gonna be a really difficult thing to do.
Because it really seems to me like that could work, but these are people that are really vested in education are probably more
Yeah.
qualified than.
But they're still students, and
Right,
they legally
right.
cannot be in the classroom by themselves with kids until they have a working license.
That would it be an ODE issue, they'd have to reach out and allow that type of
Right.
thing?
Like nurses.
Yeah.
I mean, they were provisionally
Yeah.
allowing nursing students to go
Yeah,
become nurses.
It's a bit different, because a lot of it you're working with minors,
Nurses work with minors.
Well, but it's different, you're working in a
Sure.
hospital where,
Yeah.
I mean, here you're working with young children who's Spanish and school, you're the only one in the room. It's a bit different, the supervision's different.
We would need to have the Ohio Department.
Oh, yeah, you'd have to have.
Well, yeah, I just-
Relax their rules, and I have not heard at this juncture any discussion about
I
having
imagine
to relax their
the
rules
ODE
for licensure.
Have they addressed the substitute shortage? It's gotta be, statewide, so.
It is.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
Right, and that's what
Yeah.
I mean, like I thought, like, hey, this could be a solution that could work across the country.
And what I would say is, have they addressed it? I guess a better term would be, in all fairness, they've acknowledged it.
That
But
doesn't
I can't
help.
say they've come up with a gainful plan of, this is what it can look like, and we can abbreviate student teaching, or we can say, if you've completed so many classes up to student teaching, we will release you to be hired and achieve your license on an abbreviated timeline. They have recognized, as Department of Education, the shortage, just with licensure across the board with teachers, substitute teachers. We have folks that are not going into the field like we did have at one time, but bus drivers, paraprofessionals, just positions in the field of education in general are struggling. Coming from the other side of the state, same conversations, bus drivers, substitute bus drivers, teachers, substitute teachers. But they have acknowledged the shortage. I don't think they have necessarily moved on making adjustments at this time. Is that fair to say, Abby?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think too, if they do even acknowledge that, the students will still need mentors in the classroom to work with them, because they're not teachers yet, they're still learning how to teach, and student teaching is such a big semester where they're actually in there full-time, negotiating behaviors, lesson plans, really putting in a full day's work. It's really, really different than a methods course where they're in there twice a week or a couple of hours doing a couple of lessons. So they would still, even if they're in the classroom, you're still gonna need people mentoring them and helping them through the rigors of every day. So it's a little bit more difficult than to say,
Well,
they're gonna jump in and take over.
And I hear you, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, to be a substitute teacher in our district, you don't have to have an education, degree. Your degree could be in psychology or economics, or it's just that you have a bachelor's degree, so we're not really tasking them with lesson plans or teaching. You know, they're going in the classroom doing whatever the teacher left.
body.
Yeah, so so I'm just trying to
Yeah,
think
no,
outside
but
the
we're
box if
running
we
into
have this
where they're
issue.
placed in a school. So for example, we place somebody in a Toledo public school, and they're in that classroom student teaching. And then you'd say, well, they're gonna come to Sylvania for 3 days now to substitute. They're breaking off their student teaching experience in the school district.
Oh, yeah, I don't wanna do that.
But
right?
that's what happens. I think that's,
Yeah, I
they
understand.
would have to be then student teaching in Sylvania. And then if a teacher's out, the student can say, okay, I'm in your classroom, I can take over as a teacher. But you would have to have the state pay that, so they can then be in the classroom overseas. But that would be a Sylvania thing. So let's say, Abby, you get 20 students and they're all placed in Sylvania, and the teacher calls off sick, you say, no problem. The state has okayed you to take over the class for the day, so we're covered. That's a
So
way to
do they
that.
is it student teaching for a whole year, or is it a semester?
Well, in our program, I'll just speak to our program. Some do a full year, so like in EduT, for example, early childhood, they only do a semester. So they have 4 cohorts.
Right.
So they have methods, and then a semester of student teaching. So the way it breaks down is one semester is preschool methods for 120
Right.
hours, and then primary for 240 hours, and then 70 days of student teaching. So it's 4 semesters. So it's just a lot of.
I get it.
on
I was
field.
just
Yeah.
saying, is that when you talked about that?
I
or
would,
did it for
I would
Rose's?
love
I
to
would
see
love
that
it.
happen. I think that would be phenomenal. It would just, it would, you'd have to have approval saying, okay, we've got all these students from Sylvania from, let's say, UTG, it doesn't matter where they're from. They're
And we
in
can
this
move them.
classroom. Well, you wouldn't move them, you would just simply
Right.
keep
Like
them
their
in that
student-
classroom. So teacher A is out, the student simply is just taking over the teaching for that day. You don't have to worry about calling in a sub. That student becomes the sub.
Couldn't we even do that if they're student teaching in your classroom, but then I'm out sick, then they could leave your classroom and cover my classroom for the day.
That would be a whole different.
But in the same building, all in Sylvania.
It's
Right.
possible. I mean, that would be a state.
Yeah, so some regards they're practicing under that teacher of records license to some degree, and I think that kind of equates to what you were saying, Julie, about the nursing thing. When they go into hospitals, they're practicing under that nursing license on an interim basis before they pass that NCLEX exam. So they're actually able to do some of those things because they've been through the coursework and they've been through their rotation, if you will. And so they're in the midst of getting their nursing license or achieving that, passing that NCLEX to achieve their license. With us, it's a little different in the sense that we would hope those teachers already have lesson plans established for
Right.
those teachers to come into, and then they follow those through. So
Right.
I love where your mind's at in the sense that I'd love to get more bodies in the
Yeah.
classroom, but
And these are great bodies.
No, I think that's
Yeah.
a great idea. I just think it would have to be.
It's a win-win. They're
Right.
getting experience.
right.
We have people in the classroom that are, education majors.
Right, and I will tell you, we're looking currently for like some science aid positions where we're looking for those candidates that have a biology or chemistry background with some math included, and those are really great roles to get involved in. That way, we as a district can hopefully funnel you into a position when it becomes available. It's not ideal coming right out of, school, money-wise, but it's a great position for you to actually get your feet wet and start helping out in some of the areas that we're needing you.
Okay, just a thought.
Do substitutes have to have a bachelor's degree?
Yes. Yep. In anything, right?
Something.
Yeah.
Something.
Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Shannon Sapersky,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Julie Lockman,
Yes.
Ruslan Slutsky,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
In regards to the next item, human resources for our classified personnel on a consent agenda basis, I am recommending items 8.1 through 8.4 8.6. More specifically, item 8.1 is classified personnel, where we've had a variety of folks change positions within a building or between buildings or adding to their position currently. Item 8.2, we would like to welcome some of our classified new hires to the district. Item 8.3 really looks at classified unpaid leave for a couple of our employees. Item 8.4, we have 2 classified resignations. Item 8.5, we have seeking approval for additional hours for some of our classified folks who work for translation services during our parent-teacher conferences. One thing that I am pleased to share that this service is provided out of Title III federal funding. So we are using alternative funding to support our students. That allocation, Title III, is used specifically for items such as this, so we can support folks in our community. So we're pleased to make that notation as well. Item 8.6 is a retirement of Linda Gobb, and although she has only been with our district for 2 years, we congratulate her on her retirement of, I believe, 30 years service. So we wish her the best as she retires here in just a couple of weeks, believe it or not. So we wish her the best, and we thank her for her time here in Sylvania. And of course, item 8.7 is approval of the consent agenda items for classified human resources.
I will move for approval on a consent agenda basis, items 8.1 to 8.6.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
I have a question about the personnel actions. Why are there always so many, it seems like? Like, why is there so much movement during the school year?
Yes, so in their contract, they're able to bid on open positions. There's no limitations based on how many times
So
they
when they open
can
up
bid.
and it just,
Yep, so we have to make sure we track that all the way through to determine pay and send that off to payroll. So it's
okay.
just a piece for us to kind of show where they've been and where they're going to, and then be board approved in that essentially new position.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Shakes?
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Bruce Vanslutsky,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Shannon Saberski,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Okay, we are to board committee reports and announcements. Anything, Greg?
Yeah, the only thing I will say from Sylvania Rec and Sage Yard perspective is unfortunately, we did have to cancel Winter Wonderland this year. There was a lot of, with all the restrictions that were going to be placed on the event, it just became too difficult.
This is very sad.
It is. It is.
Shannon?
Nope.
Ursula? I'm assuming, Kim, you don't have any reports for us?
I do have some questions, and I kind of wanted to bring up, if this is an okay time, just general questions or comments. Because I've been getting a lot of emails and such. Do we have a plan yet for sports and extracurriculars since we're remote?
Actually, yes. In fact, we had a survey from the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Actually, I think that came out Friday, Tim, is that correct?
That's correct.
They are actually seeking input in regards to where school districts fall. I will tell you, as superintendent and working with Tim and taking a pulse from our athletic directors, we are going to try and maintain, we want practice to continue under strict protocols as long as we can. However, competition games probably will be off the table, but we are waiting to hear direction from the Ohio Athletic Association if that's something they are encouraging. But I will tell you, I want our folks, our kiddos, to be engaged in sports as long as possible. We know they need that for their social well-being. I think it's something that's important to our community, and we stood behind that. So we're waiting to hear some type of ruling. I don't know if there was a timeline on that survey, Tim, if you recall, but they are taking a pulse from the communities and the school districts. And I will tell you, the school districts that I've communicated with are on the same page, that essentially will handle it very similar to summer.
Okay, so will
Unless they give us a shutdown.
and I mean, that's sports, but then also, would that be the same like speech and debate and that kind of thing? Or okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I have a couple other questions regarding the remote. So, what about classified staff?
Actually, we have a plan to meet with Oak Seed leadership tomorrow, I believe,
Okay.
to discuss what that would look like. Actually, I've been in contact with Stella for the last 2 Thursday or Fridays, keeping her apprised of where we are and what we're doing. We want them to be at the table and be part of the decision with what that looks like, something that we just don't want to impose. So I do believe our meeting is tomorrow. I'll just say tomorrow, I'm not gonna quote the time, because I don't
Okay.
recall.
Abby and I have we met with the OC leadership last week to get a preliminary plan in place ahead of, any decision to go red. We met today to outline the communication. We didn't want to put out the communication too early, because to avoid some of the, confusion that might take place with, hybrid and then red. So we anticipate after the input from, OC, we'll finalize a letter, meet with the directors, and then that communication will go out tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, is the shared work still on the table, or is that passed?
The shared
I mean,
works-
is that a program that's still ongoing in general?
It's, we've suspended it currently, but we wanna see how this.
But I mean, Ohio is still
Yeah.
offline. and-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can utilize that program for up to 52 weeks, so you
Okay.
can suspend it any time and then resume it if needed.
Okay, and then one more question, regarding, I had a teacher contact me about possibly teaching from home. Is that something we're considering at all?
We actually have a meeting to discuss that tomorrow
Okay.
with SEA leadership.
So I'm just asking a day early on.
You're proactive, that's being proactive.
Can
I
I
said I would ask.
quick follow-up question on that? So as far as sports go, so if I'm understanding this correctly, we're planning on taking direction from OHSAA? Is that-
I would say more than likely, yes, I will tell you, they are adamant about keeping sports, as you saw during the summer and how things progressed. I would like to take our lead from them. From what I can tell in the few weeks or 3 months that I've been here, I think, they really want our kids to be actively involved in sports, and I really condone that same philosophy. I think it's about, can we handle it in the same way that we did during the summer when we had COVID really raising its ugly head. I think that's the direction that they are seeking. All indications that I'm receiving are saying that as well. And I know Abby is back there shaking her head because she's also kind of tied through marriage. She's married to an athletic director, and with Tim's input as well. So that's what I envision. Now again, if this governor comes in and shuts us down
Sure.
differently, that means something
Right.
else. But right now, I think they're really trying to keep a plan on how can we do it in a safe environment and be responsible.
Right, okay.
And we've been handling it. When we've had an incident, we have to shut down a team, we shut down a team. We've been able to handle it with our framework right now, so we will wait to hear from them. I'm hoping sooner than later, because a lot of parents are chomping on the bit at the bit. And I also think it is reflective to non-athletics and those other areas, because quite frankly, we need to treat those folks the same. Those students need those opportunities, they need those outlets, and I want to support them.
Okay, thank you.
On that note, I was gonna say, I was able to attend Southview's play this weekend, Words Matter, and they did a really good job social distancing. They sold just a limited amount of tickets. Everybody was wearing their masks. The seating was like every other seat. If you bought your seat, 3 away till there was more people. It felt very safe. They did a really nice job. The kids did a great job. The whole team did a great job. So glad that got to go forward. And I know that Northview has their play this upcoming weekend, the 19th to the 22nd. And I think they're doing much the same thing. Social distancing and selling a limited amount of tickets. So
Southview's, I know, we actually watched it at home. My niece was in it, and you could buy it, which was really cool, and watch the live stream on, Broadway something.
Broadway on Demand. Yeah,
Broadway
my
on Demand.
kids watched it at home also.
Yeah,
and so did my mom, because she's
I don't
unable
know.
to come in.
Okay, so
Northview's
I'm
doing the
hoping
same
Northview
thing.
does that too, I'm not
Yes,
sure, but.
they're definitely
Okay,
doing the
good.
same thing.
It
but
worked really well, and we just streamed it to the TV, and it was cool.
yeah, my mom has health issues, so she watched it. My nephew was in it, so she watched it at home, and yeah, he was a school shooter. Yeah.
I will say, those are the things, though, I think that under COVID, that we will learn and embrace, that can take us on the other side of COVID. To your point, where your mother may not have been able to make it in person, to provide that opportunity and home for our families, just in case, that's something I would like to really encourage us to continue to do. I think it would broaden the scope of who could actually participate and see
Well, and I know they had people watching from Colorado.
Yeah,
That's
from other
amazing.
states.
Yeah, from other
Yeah.
states, so
That's
people
amazing.
that wouldn't have the opportunity to see their, student on stage, they were able to do it, so
It's awesome.
it'd be nice if even post-COVID, they still kept this sort of
Yeah, absolutely.
option available, so. I will be at Northview this coming weekend to check out Quarantines, it's called, and I'm sure they'll also do a fantastic job. So, does anybody else have anything? Okay, so this is the second opportunity for public participation, for items not on the agenda, so we have, Justin Hammerling. Hi, Mr. Hammerling, where do you want him, Lisa, just standing up there?
Sure.
All right.
So standing up there, if you'll just, give us your name and address, and then the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. My name is Justin Hammerling. I live at 2501 Wimbley Terrace North in St. James Wood. So my daughters are, 2 daughters, they're students at Central Trail Kindergarten and 3rd grade. And I'm here, and I really do appreciate the time of the board, especially a new board member, this evening as I talk about something that I'm very concerned about with what's been going on within the schools and our decision to go even hybrid and red as of late, as of today. When the plan was first announced, my wife and I, we were both erred on the side of caution. We actually applauded the hybrid plan as a good way to wait and see to make sure what is the actual health impact of sending our children back to school going to be. And in the months since that decision, what we've seen and what the data suggests is our children are far more likely to suffer damage as a result of not being in school than they are in school. When you look at statistics, 128 families lost their children due to COVID virus that were school age, between the ages of 5 and 21. That is a horrible loss. Conversely, in the 2018 to 2019 school year, 584 families lost their children due to influenza. We did not shut down the schools. Why? Because we understood that the damage that shutting down one of our country's most sacred institutions would cause far more harm than it did good. We are seeing the damage that this is doing psychologically to our children, to our families, and to our community. When we look at people's health, only 20% of the overall well-being of an individual is contributed to clinical measures. Your heart rate, your blood pressure, your pulse ox, whether or not you're infected with the disease or not, only constitute 20% of your overall health and well-being outcomes. The other factors are social, economic, and most importantly, behavioral. Your mental health is just as important, if not more so, than your physical health. Our children are young and impressionable. These times we do not get back in helping with their behavior. Statistically, we have seen increases in drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and much more damaging physical abuse to children as a result from mental health issues within the home. These are all due to lockdowns. These are all due to the pandemic that we're all experiencing. And I greatly appreciate the board's err on the side of caution when we launched. But what we've seen is that the decision to even go hybrid, let alone going red, will do far more damage to our children and our community than it will be to move into green. And this is why I humbly ask when the board reviewed the petition, myself and 475 other family members have asked for the decision to go red, the decision to go hybrid, not be based off of metrics. Even the authors of those metrics say that these should not be used as the only qualifiers for the decision to go remote. These are indicators. Any decision to send our children to remote education needs to be open for discussion and not based off of an automatic rollover, a triggering event from a metric. And that is what our petition talked about. And we're requesting that a special board meeting now be called so this can be an actual item to be voted on before we decide to go to red. Because the damage that will be caused will be far greater than the potential benefit. If you want to get into statistics, and if you have a child or a family whose in head you're envisioning as, if I shut down the schools, at least this person would be safe. That same person that you see in your head is 3 times more likely, 3 times, to suffer emotional or behavioral or physical abuse than they are to be saved by shutting down the schools. And with that, I will yield whatever time I have left in my 3 minutes to my colleague here, who are both very passionate about having the schools move to green and not go to red in any form because of the damage that it will do, both short-term and long-term, to their health of not only them as individuals, the families, but our community. We've had over 100 students leave the system to go to schools that are full-time. That's a ripple effect we'll be feeling far greater than a vaccine or the 2021 school year. And that's what we need to be thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren Johnson.
Hey everybody.
Hi, can you just give us your name and your address, and
Okay.
then you have 3 minutes, not the remainder of his time. You get your own 3 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Lauren Bohr. I live at 5265 Brick Crossing Boulevard, Sylvania, Ohio, 43560. Justin and I represent a group that put together a petition back in the fall. And it got started in October. It was recently shut down just due to the increase in numbers. We kind of like flip-flopped our talking. But where we're coming from is we want our kids to be in school for the benefit of them. We worked alongside a lot of teachers and talked to administrators. We have 2 administrators on the committee who are, work for another larger district than us in the area and have been helping us and giving us information. They are proud of where we are at and what we've been able to do to be able to keep our kids in school, including the investment of $723,818.01 in plexiglass and the $154,614.96 in PPE. Justin mentioned, the CDC's recommendation for not using the core indicators as a burden of transmission within the schools, which has also been repeated by our governor, the Ohio Health Department, multiple superintendents in the state, and the CDC. So which is why we've asked that if we are to put another indicator, which the CDC recommends using one of the 5 secondary indicators, that we put something that measures where we're at in our community. We're at 60% ICU capacity. We've been at 60% ICU capacity, plus or minus 3% since July 30th. And as cases are going up, if you look at the charts as of today and last week, you're looking at ER visits are upwards of 20 per day, but there's only 4 to 7 admissions, and only resulting in very few of them becoming in the ICU, let alone them being children. So we just want you guys to take all of that into consideration. We love for the kids to be able to stay yellow if that's possible, but we are definitely for green and plan to continue the petition after the first of the year to the maximum amount of time the state of Ohio allows, which is 30 days. Okay.
Thank you, Lauren.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I didn't see any signatures.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, we can submit them for you.
Okay, I mean, that's just, like, if it's a petition, I would assume we would get, like, the actual signatures, because we don't really know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get them for you. So I will have Cindy or we'll pull them all together and get them over to you guys here probably by the end of the night. So
If you want to hold on, I don't know if Dr. Motley has some comments.
If I have permission to speak on
Absolutely.
behalf of the board. Thank you for the both of you coming in. Lauren, I really appreciate it. First, I want you to know, and I don't know I don't know if you can pop that
Can
in,
he,
we
yeah,
have
he
10.
can,
Just stand right there.
All right,
Yeah.
6 feet.
I just want to acknowledge that, thank you both for coming in. We recognize your position, your perspective, and we thank you for that. I also know that on behalf of our board and myself, we do have a common ground and a common investment. We all want our children in school. We do. I have said many a time, the magic happens in the classroom. I recognize that, our staff recognizes that, our administrators recognize that. I think right now, we do have some unique perspective, and unique challenges, quite frankly, about the numbers or the burden behind the numbers. It is more than for us sometimes just the number of cases, but the burden on the system that we have in place. For example, today, we had 18 teachers that were out that we could not fill substitute positions for. That's a ripple effect that often is not translated by just the number of cases or positivity. It's how do we provide coverage for those staff members who are ill or who have been quarantined or who are isolated due to exposure. I know some of the data, and looking through the data and combing through the data and working with folks that are experts in the field, I don't discount what your metrics say. I also know that some of the data is only based on hospitalizations and not those individuals who are sick. Thank God if people are sick, they don't get to the extreme of having to go to the hospital, but also their impact on others around them. So I want you to know, as a voice of this board, we do want the same thing. We want kids in school. We need to figure out how to do it safely. And in regards to also how we can maintain the resources to make sure quality instruction takes place. Because I will tell you, with 18 teachers out and the cases going up, that's an increased burden for us, and we are struggling to get substitute teachers. So if you want to substitute, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. We need the help. But again, we understand your perspective, your voice has been heard, and we respect your committee and that the work you've done to bring the attention of a portion of our community that wants us to know where you stand. So thank you. Truly.
thank you. Anybody else? Nobody else? Okay, then with that, I will move we go into executive session for the purpose of negotiations.
Preparation for conduct and review of negotiations with bargaining members.
Somebody want a second?
Sorry, sorry.
Can you call the roll, Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Bruce Lambertski.
Yes.